it's been so frustrating for me to watch the dishonesty of the media over the last, more than 10 years. So I know the things that I need to expose.
Report on.
The Russia collusion thing is going to drive me nuts. It's just going to drive me nuts until we have people held accountable for that. Because it was so frustrating that you could say that, look, the Steele dossier is nonsense. Oh, you're a right-wing Trump supporter. What? How did I go from here to here? This document is fake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And who paid for it? Oh, wait, these people paid for it. Okay, wait. Well, that's wrong. I mean...
But things seem to be changing. Like, legacy media doesn't seem as important as it used to be. Like, when I started 15, 16 years ago...
Yeah.
Like, I go back to this concept with give them your pound of flesh. There was shame. You could shame people away because you got tarred and feathered by the Washington Post. The Washington Post did a huge hit piece on me in 2017. I'll never forget it. It was devastating.
Yeah.
They said that I had tried to plan a fake story about a rape thing to get undercover. And it wasn't, it was half truth, innuendo.
That's the tactic they used against Tim Ballard from Sound of Freedom, by the way.
Right.
Same kind of thing.
It's like mendacity and innuendo and like, it was like a very nuanced innuendo. It was like he tried to plant a fake story. I didn't want to plant a fake story in the Post. I was pretending to be something so I could get a meeting with somebody. And the Washington Post ran a front page hit piece, and it influenced people. I don't know if they I don't think they have the same degree of influence.
Do you remember when we first met? I told you a term, information dominance. That's what they had.
Remind me.
They had information dominance.
But do they have it today?
No, that's what's changed.
When did that change?
Well, it changed in a profound way with Elon Musk. The person who chipped away at it most effectively before that was Rush Limbaugh. But
Elon Musk purchased a Twitter, that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, because Twitter was so vast, it had such reach.
Yeah.
And so it was a death blow to their information dominance. And it really opened the way, because remember when you were not being, when those papers turned their back on you and they were no longer reporting on your investigations, you didn't really have a voice. I mean, you did, but it was limited.
Yeah.
And so you were trying to get back.
It's a lot of local media Andrew Breitbart would say to me, I didn't realize you could leverage local media. I found between 2011 and 2016, most of my stories were state report. And they got on the front page of these state newspapers.
Yes.
That's what I was doing in the wilderness.
And then when
Trump came on the scene,
yeah,
things changed a little bit too. I did those Bob Creamer videos. But I know what you mean. Information dominance.
It really shifted in a meaningful way.
But what we talked about in Mamaroneck in that French restaurant is we were talking about, the approval that we all tacitly seek, even if it's 5% of our hearts.
Stop seeking their approval.
You said stop seeking their approval. Stop giving them power.
Don't stop giving them that power over you.
Meaning stop caring what the New York Times thinks about you.
How many times do they have to lie? And you're still, what I mean? It's like going to the Nazis at as a Jewish person in the middle of the war and saying, well, how about now? Do you like me more today? Can you just give me a stamp of approval?
But you want that Pulitzer Prize, and you want those Emmys and those Peabodys,
but they're awful.
Proverbially, they're awful.
They're awful. They give people awards for stories that didn't even happen.
Common folk, if you walk down the street in rural Michigan, oh, you want a Pulitzer Prize? It still has a brand.
Of course.
Of
course, but that's why we have to create our own.
We have to create our own.
Because it doesn't mean, once you give someone a story, an award for a story that didn't actually happen.
Oh, with the
award is now meaningless.
Russia gate.
Yes.
Which is a point that Elon
and not just
pointed
one
out.
year, but 2 years, 3 years in a row.
The Washington Post won a Pulitzer Prize in that article about me. In other words, they won a Pulitzer Prize reporting this mendacious thing that was sort of a half-truth.
So they get rewarded for lying.
They got a Pulitzer Prize.
So we have to ask ourselves,
or lie by omission too sometimes.
Yes. But why do we seek the approval of people who have consistently proven themselves to be profoundly dishonest?
That's a rhetorical question. I mean,
I don't.
You're a very unique soul. I hope you understand. You're a unique human being. Why do we seek the approval?
Maybe because I've already had it. Maybe it's different for me because I've already have it. I have a DuPont Silver Baton, which is the Pulitzer of television journalism. I have, everything from Emmys to Walter Cronkite Awards to Overseas Press Club Awards. I mean, I have a plethora of them. And so maybe I got that already.
We seek acceptance. We seek community. We seek to be
We
liked.
do, because we go back to the animals in the wild.
Well,
because that's what animals do. That's how they survive. When you see animals in the wild,
Yeah.
what do? The flock or the
animals.
herd, they move together because there's safety in numbers.
Rush Limbaugh said, my favorite quote from Rush Limbaugh, and I met Rush Limbaugh, and I was on his show for my first book. He said, "Being hated is one of the most difficult things to psychologically accept. Being hated by, and these are my words, I'm paraphrasing, by all the people that you want to be liked by."
Huh.
And that's a very difficult thing
Wow.
to accept, being hated and smeared.
Yeah.
And it's one thing, you have your teenage angst. You're 17 years old in the morgue. I mean, I was 18 years old at Rutgers making videos and undercover. And then you have this sort of, as a child, you want safety and comfort in your childhood bedroom.
Yeah.
As a teenager, you angst, change the world, power to the people. And now I'm 40 and I'm like, sometimes I just want peace. But to be smeared and tarred and targeted.
Yeah.
This is difficult.
Yeah, but we got to get over it.
You gotta get over
We
it.
got to get over it. It's done. I mean, that's
done.
it. It's done. It's like, if you were to watch a baby with a babysitter who was abusing that baby, and then after they beat the baby comes back because it's got nowhere else to go. Don't be that. That's a baby doing that instinct. It goes
You
back.
mean get over wanting peace or get over what?
Get over wanting recognition and approval and all of that of bad people. They're not worth it. They literally are not worth it. They lied about Hunter Biden's laptop.
Right.
They've lied about how many things. These people say that they care about immigration because they care about people. They take the moral high ground, but they don't care that hundreds of thousands of children, like that little girl in your film, like all of those young teenagers, were brought over the border, and the vast majority of them never went to a family member. They went to people who raped them or sold them or abused them. I mean, there's a little boy, his body was found in Illinois. He was raped to death. And next to him was the guy passed out who raped him. That was an MS-13 home that he went to. They didn't care. When whistleblowers came, oh, by the way, whistleblowers who you exposed, thanks to you and Project Veritas, Aaron Stevenson, when he came out and said, we're giving gang members, we're taking them off the transnational criminal list so that they can sponsor children. And no one cared. These people didn't say a word. They didn't care. Mm-hmm. And then when Tara Rodas, another whistleblower, it was a case manager down at the border, said, hey, we've got MS-13 people and other criminals sponsoring kids. They didn't care. And now there's an actual documented case of a 11-year-old boy who went to the home of an MS-13 gang member who was raped to death. His body showed up in Illinois, next to the man who killed him. Mm-hmm. Okay, these people are not worthy of your time. You don't need their respect. You don't need their affection. You don't need their recognition. And you don't need their goddamn awards that don't mean a thing at this point. They can shove it up where the sun don't shine. I couldn't care less. They don't bother me one bit anymore because I don't look to the worst people in our society for approval.
Validation.
When you don't care. You know what, James? You know what gets me? What gets me is you had that little girl. I had a little boy this size. Lift up the corner of his shirt and there's a phone number. I called that number various times for 2 years. No one ever picked up. Mm. Do you know what happens to children who are trafficked, who are sexually tortured until they die? Every single day of their lives. I mean, this is unspeakable what we have done. It is unspeakable. How many others are dead? So these people who want to be self-righteous and moralizing and lecturing about the fact that you're splitting families, do you know what happens to an American family when the parent is arrested? They're split. You think you get to take your kids to jail? No. Families get torn apart in this country every single day. Does it break my heart? 150,000%. You think I could sleep at night coming back from the border to some horrible little motel? I don't care about these people because they mean nothing to me. They have shown themselves to be the worst kind of people. What happens to them is out of my, I don't care.
It's your lived experience in your life, everything that you know, and there's a difference between, okay, I meant to say everything that your wisdom. You have wisdom, first of all, from what God gave you, but also from your experience in life that taught you these things. You have won, what was it called? The TV award?
The DuPont,
DuPont
Silver Baton.
Silver, but it even sounds ridiculous. DuPont Silver Baton?
Yeah.
There's a difference in a Peabody? Is it a Peabody for television?
Oh yeah, no, the Peabody's for television.
Emmys?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds a little absurd. DuPont Silver Baton.
Yeah, Columbia DuPont. That's where it comes from.
little
Old Connecticut Columbian Journalism School. And you know, when they had a guy who was lying about me, lying about my reporting, I called the dean of Columbia Journalism School. I knew him. I'd interviewed him. I liked and respected him. But he worked for the Atlantic. I should have known. And I said to him, "You've got a professor that's lying. He's blatantly lying about my reporting." And he said, "Well, you know, we take the free speech rights of our professors very seriously." I said, "Even when they're lying." I mean, this guy said when I went to Liberia and covered Ebola at the height of the epidemic and went through all of that, and he said I didn't interview any black people, and you know, of course I did. I had dozens and dozens of interviews with black people. They didn't end up in the story. They didn't make the cut because they weren't the most powerful interviews that we had. You know, but he's going to try to. I mean, this guy from the safety of his New York apartment, while I'm on the front line.
Right.
In graveyards, surrounded by dead people, watching people die. You little jackass, you're gonna go off to your little job at Columbia Journalism School and you're gonna opine. Who, by the way, when you were a correspondent for the New York Times in Africa and there was an Ebola outbreak, you know what he did? Ran for his life.
Yeah.
Ran for his life because he was a pathetic little coward.
I mean, I wrote the Train of Death in Mexico, like with the Venezuelans, and
yeah, that's
I had a New York Times reporter throw shade on me. It's like, I'm on the train of death with Venezuela, who, by the way, I'm giving water and pizza to these Venezuelan children, and it's kind of a pro-immigrant movie. It's an anti-system movie, but
Seriously.
I get your point. You've lived, though, the wisdom that you have. I would call it, there's a difference between wisdom and knowledge.
Yeah.
Those guys at the New Yorker magazine, I don't doubt they don't read a lot of books. They probably read all about history. But I think you have some wisdom in you from your lived experience.
James, they sold their souls.
They sold their souls.
That's it. They sold their souls.
But a lot of people do that. A lot of people do that. A lot of people do that.
I don't worry about that. I just don't worry about it.
Well, because you can't control it.
And there's no time.
There's no time.
There's no time. We have a short window.
You got so focus on the people who are willing. Is that what you're saying?
Everything we care about is slipping through our fingers. And we have a very short window of time to fight for that. A lot of it is gone already. I don't know what it looks like in the end. But you know what? My daughters, my children, are not going to grow up wearing abayas and having no rights and reciting the Quran. And they're not going to grow up as slaves.
Forget the Pulitzer people and the Columbia people and the CBS people and all that. Like the first question Rush Limbaugh asked me, it wasn't about, tell me about the escapades as a pimp or what it was like in a New Orleans prison. You know what he asked me? And Rush Limbaugh is a very smart man.
What?
You would agree, right? He says, why is it that conservatives don't have your back more? That's the first question he asked you.
What'd you say?
I quoted him. I said, liberals circle the wagons and conservatives circle the firing squad. At the time, this was in 2013. Progressives tend to stick together and conservatives tend to run for the hills. That's what he had said, and I was quoting him back to him when he asked me that question. And the betrayal is the thing that's been hardest for me to handle, which is why I said to you, a lot of people have sold your soul, and you said, don't worry about it. Well, for me, we have to find people who are not willing to sell their souls to fight alongside of us.
Sure.
And those are difficult people to find, no?
Sure they are.
Very difficult.
But remember what I said to you when they was taking Project Veritas away from you. I said, God is cleaning the ranks for you.
True.
He's getting rid of all the traitors.
Very true.
And the weak.
And he did that. Hopefully. What is your price? Because if your price is not your life, then you are for sale.